A couple of weeks ago, there were a lot of Russian businessmen in town because there was a Russian-Singapore business forum. So I went to meet them. I met one Russian businessman. He owns a company in St. Petersburg, way up north in Russia. And he makes materials for bathroom fittings, toilets, wash basins, and so on. He supplies the materials, he does the logistics. He has 2 global purchasing headquarters. One is in London, one is in Shenzhen. And having come to Singapore several times, having seen Singapore and decided he likes Singapore, he's going to move the 2 headquarters to Singapore, make 1 global purchasing headquarters here in place of London and Shenzhen. And he's going to move here, and he's going to move his family here too. So, by the time somebody from St. Petersburg comes to Singapore, brings his business here, his family here, and hopefully in the longer term strike roots here, I think we are doing a good thing. But we must also understand that the world has changed, and our circumstances have also changed. So we will do well this way as long as we continue to transform ourselves and our economy and prepare our workers for change. The external conditions are different. After the global crisis, the businesses which went out will not come back soon, and new competitors will come, and we have to go into new areas of business. But apart from the world, I think in Singapore, we will face capacity constraints. We need land for industries. We are almost full. We need workers to man our factories and businesses. We have large numbers of foreign workers, and we can't easily just double them again. We can't just expand indefinitely. So we must adapt to our physical limits and find ways to transcend these physical limits. Go abroad, do business over in the region, and make the most of the space, the people, the resources we have within Singapore. Foreign workers are a very good example. We are acting to moderate the inflow of foreign workers because there's a limit to the number we can have in Singapore. We put them in dormitories, we put them in old schools, we even have to put some of them in Serangoon Gardens. That's with 800,000 foreign workers, roughly. If I had twice that number, I would have nowhere to put them. And so we have to moderate the inflow and make the best use of them. I think union leaders may feel relieved because you may feel that this means less competition for our own workers, especially at the lower end. And I've discussed this with the Central Committee members, and they have felt that they have been under pressure, and the foreign workers are cheaper and work harder, and Singaporeans find it hard to compete. So maybe if there are fewer foreign workers, the competition will be less. It may be so, but only for the short term. Because in the long term, if we can't increase our workforce easily, it will have major implications for our economy, and even for our own people. Because it will be harder to maximize our growth in a boom, and in normal times too, growth will be slower, and that means there will be less vibrancy. That means it will be less easy for Singaporeans to find jobs and to find opportunities. Already, employers are finding it harder to find workers. You read about it in the newspapers because we've tightened up on the rules, and you can see employers saying they can't find workers, and some of them appealing when their workers are taken back. Some of it is employers hoping that the government will relax, but at the same time, I think there is an important element of truth there, that if we don't have that many workers, we will miss opportunities which will come our way. But we have to trade off. On the one hand, how many we can take. On the other hand, how many opportunities are there. And we've got to judge this carefully and calibrate our policy to maintain the right balance. But Singaporeans will have to get used to lower growth than before, and we have to make this trade-off. We can't avoid it. Within the constraints, we have to do our utmost to maximize our performance. For example, there are things we can do. We can expand our local workforce, get more seniors to work, get more women back in the workforce, get more childcare, so it's easier for women to go back after they've had babies. But more crucial, we have to become more productive. Each worker has to be more productive. Each team has to be more productive. Each organization, whether it's a company, whether it's a government department, has to be more productive. As Mr. Lim Swee Say says, we must be cheaper, better, faster. CBF. What does this mean for workers? It means that in a globalized economy, you cannot expect to do the same job and ride an escalator up effortlessly and earn more and more by doing more or less the same work every year. It's not possible. Other people will be doing the same work as you, and more other people will be doing the same work and willing to do it cheaper. If they're not here, they will be in Malaysia, if not in Indonesia, if not in Vietnam, if not in China. And if Shenzhen doesn't have the workers, somewhere, Chengdu or Xi'an or Yunnan, Kunming, somebody will be willing to do this job. To earn more, each worker has to upgrade himself, become more skilled, do higher valued jobs. You have to keep on learning and improving in order to earn more as you go along. It's true of workers, it's true of companies. Companies can only do better if they innovate, if they improve their processes and products, if they venture into new and promising areas. So it's not like riding an escalator, it's like rowing a boat upstream. And if you are not making progress forwards, the water is going to push you back. So economy-wide, we have to phase out the less productive activities gradually and replace them with new activities and new industries. We can't stop companies relocating to other countries which have picked up these capabilities, but we can continue moving up to attract and to retain new activities and to encourage new companies as well as companies who are already here to upgrade and to deepen their roots. You look at the disk drive industry. It's one of the biggest industries in Singapore, used to be. It's been here for 30 years. We've worried for almost these 30 years how long we can keep this industry, because we could see that other people were developing their capabilities. And each time we saw a new center come up, we asked ourselves, what happens to our jobs? We had Seagate, we had Maxtor, we had Connors, so many companies. In fact, many of the companies have disappeared. But we have kept the industry for 30 years because each time a new center came up, we were able to upgrade our operation here to go up more sophisticated disk drives, more complicated, more flexible operations. And so UEE remains one of the biggest unions in Singapore because a lot of their members work in the disk drive industry. So we watched Penang. We kept our position. Thailand, we kept our position. We watched Philippines. They tried, not so successfully. We watched China. They set up in Wuxi. In fact, we had an industrial park in Wuxi, and they came to our industrial park. At first with some difficulties, but they've mastered the skills. So now finally, after 30 years, Seagate says, we are going to phase out disk drive making in Singapore by the end of the year, and it means we will lose, I think, about 3,000 jobs. But Seagate will still be here, doing hard disk drive media manufacturing, making the material for the disks, doing R&D, having an international headquarters here. And there'll be about 2,000 people working for Seagate still in Singapore. So the process continues. We are riding the escalator like everybody else, or we're really rowing the boat like everybody else. And some we let go is all right, provided we get new activities coming in. Aeroplane engines, pharmaceuticals, IT, and so on. It's easy to say you're rowing the boat, but what it means constant change, constant adapting, constant retraining. For workers, new skills, new jobs, new industries, provided you make the effort. Which means that there's a very important role for NTUC to play. Because left to themselves, workers may be worried and confused. But with the unions can help them to cope with the uncertainty, to understand the economic reality, and to undergo the training and retraining, and therefore master the situation and make progress in their lives. I'm a bit worried that because the worst of this crisis has passed, people may not strive so hard to upgrade themselves. Already, interest in Spur has declined. Last year, business was very, very hot, even earlier this year, but now companies are not so anxious, and the workers are not quite so anxious to go to Spur anymore. But in fact, the global competition is still there, and we have to do it, and you have to get the message across to the workers. Continued training is the only way forward. We'll give you our full support. As a government, we're investing millions of dollars. We're establishing 2 new campuses for continuing education and training. 1 East Campus at Paya Lebar Regional Centre, 1 West Campus at Jurong Lake District, to be one-stop shops for training and retraining workers and sourcing and redesign of jobs. They'll be like E2I, campuses, but bigger and better. Please make full use of them. There's no shortcut or easy solution for this. Even Japan, which is a very cohesive and very developed and well-organized economy, finds this a difficult problem. They used to work on a very corporatist system to give workers certainty and stability, so seniority-based lifetime employment for a large number of their workers. So workers work with one company throughout their lives, pay based on how long they've been there, and in return the company looks after the workers. Down period, you hang on to them. Up periods, you reward them, and your identity is your company. And in the services sector, they kept protected jobs for Japanese workers who are not so productive. So if you go into a Japanese department store, even a hotel, even today, you go into a hotel, somebody opens a door, 2 pretty girls bow at you. You go into the lift, pretty girl bows at you again. You come out from the lift, somebody else is there. It's not just for me, it's for all the visitors. But it is not sustainable, and what's happening now is that the Japanese companies are outsourcing temporary workers who accept lower pay, no benefits. So the unemployment has gone up, the income of the lower end has fallen, inequality of income has become a problem. And it's one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons why the Japanese people got fed up with the LDP and voted overwhelmingly for a new government from the opposition party, from the DPJ, with Mr. Hatoyama as a prime minister. Now, the new government has to grapple with the same very difficult issues, but they won't find easy solutions either. So if the world's second biggest economy cannot protect its workers in a closed system, Singapore, with a small and open economy, has no hope of doing so successfully. The only way for us is to push for constant transformation, to create new economic space to grow and to prosper. I was overall encouraged by my visit to Japan. They wanted to know about Singapore, they wanted to know about the region, they wanted to know what the opportunities were for working with us. Many of them are thinking of using Singapore as a base to service the region. For example, in India, where they don't find the environment so familiar. Others want to work with Singapore companies to do projects all over the world, for example, in water technologies, and we will do our best to bring them here. But other companies too are coming here. You've heard about Rolls-Royce, you've heard about Medtronics, Abbott, Roche, even Asian companies like Li Ning. You may not have heard of Li Ning, but Li Ning was the athlete who ran around the wall of the Olympic Stadium last year, 飞檐走壁. And he makes sports shoes and sports clothes, and he wants to set up here. So we have good projects. We are a bit shy to talk about them publicly because EDB says the companies don't want to be misunderstood that they are taking jobs away from other countries to come here. So please don't cause them difficulties with unions elsewhere, because they don't want difficulties with the government, with their own workers there. But in fact, we are doing well, and one of the reasons we are doing well is because the unions in Singapore understand what's necessary and support them with the environment which enables them to prosper in Singapore. We're very grateful for the unions to do this. Because of you, because we work together, we've delivered good results, even in a crisis year, and we will ensure a bright future for the country. So let's continue to push together to make progress and to improve the lives of all Singaporeans. Thank you very much.